You can see it from our camera atop Lookout Mountain. As we look off to the east, it's coming down right atop downtown Denver tonight. We have seen some pretty strong storms in Larimer and Weld County earlier this afternoon. Everything slowly moving off to the east, but as we zoom in here to the Front Range, still a few stronger cells out there in Elbert County toward Kiowa as well. But this is what I'm talking about. Right downtown, 5 o'clock, everyone hopping in the cars, trying to get out of work and back home, picking up the kiddos, and Mother Nature bringing us some pretty serious rainfall out there. Heaviest pockets of rain now pushing out into parts of Morgan County. Flood advisories will continue until 6:30 near Raymer, and then another flood advisory out there toward Greeley. They saw a lot of water earlier this afternoon. That should go into effect, or continue, I should say, until about 6 o'clock tonight. But the risk for seeing a couple of stronger storms out there, maybe even some large hail, that's going to be just to the east of I-25 and then tracking off to the eastern plains. Tonight, temperatures have been cooling off courtesy of these storms racing through. We were in the upper 70s, but now 65 out at DIA, some lower 70s in northern Colorado with 50s and 60s up in the mountains. I'll be tracking those storms for you for the next couple of hours. Tomorrow we'll still be in the 70s, and then all eyes ahead toward Labor Day weekend. I'll have that forecast coming your way in just a few minutes. Thank you. To push into Colorado. Yes, we desperately need to see the water, but sometimes it's just too much of a good thing coming at us too quickly. Yesterday, we saw record-breaking rainfall totals here in the Denver area, taking our monthly average to just shy of 3 inches. Typically, we should be a little closer to about 1.5 inches. Very impressive stuff. And currently, we have rain showers building back in here to downtown Denver. You can see kind of those dark, ominous skies pushing in across the city skyline. Temperatures this afternoon holding in the upper 70s to low 80s for much of the eastern side of the state. 60s out there up towards Steamboat, Leadville, Aspen, and just 80 degrees in Grand Junction. So certainly those cooler temperatures that we've seen the past couple of days helping firefighters out dramatically. We've been below average, nearly 10 degrees below our average for this time of the year, and we'll stay there for the next couple of days. Looking at the satellite and radar composite, scattered showers, thunderstorms continue to march in across far northwestern Colorado. They're pushing along the Front Range too, and now tracking off to the eastern plains. A line of strong thunderstorms out there just beginning moving in that direction. Are going to encounter a whole lot of lightning, some heavy rains out there, and the possibility of some small hail. Like I mentioned, some flood advisories remain just because we have seen some flooding in low-lying areas. And then there you go, downtown Denver, as well as areas just to the east, Park Hill heading out toward Aurora, 225, Glendale bracing for some pretty heavy rainfall at this hour. Thunderstorms will continue for us for the next few hours as temperatures dip into the upper 50s overnight. Will only drop off to the lower 60s off to the eastern plains, some 40s and 50s up in the mountains. And then looking at the futurecast here about 7 p.m. most of the action east of the Denver metro area. We still could have an isolated pop-up shower, but the strongest storms should be out of showers. Otherwise, it's a quiet night and start to our Thursday morning. Past couple of days, we've been waking up to foggy conditions out there. It looks like a little bit more sunshine on tap for us tomorrow. The cloud cover will race in by about 1, 2 o'clock, followed by a few thunderstorms. A little less coverage than what we saw today. However, the chance is still out there. And then by 11 o'clock or so, those storms should push out. Looking at the hour-by-hour forecast, highs soaring into the upper 70s for us. And again, storms around 4 or 5 o'clock. 70s off to the plains, 80s down into southeastern Colorado, and another day in the 80s for the western slope. Cooler 60s, 70s through the foothills. Scattered storms make a comeback for us on Friday. Good pool weather, barbecue weather.
Soak up that last weekend of the pool.
Exactly.
Thanks for watching Denver 7 News at 5.
Join us back here at 6 o'clock and have a great night. Minutes ago, it was raining. As we look at the satellite and radar composite, scattered showers not only up through the high country, but across the eastern plains as well. Some of those a little stronger, dumping some heavier pockets of rain. Downtown right now, you can see on the west side, looking at some heavy rainfall, especially near King Carroll and C470 downtown. Just a little bit of light rainfall, heavier pockets just to the east, I-76 and then south toward I-70 with a whole lot of lightning and the possibility of some small hail. Areas just to the east of I-25 under that marginal threat for seeing some severe weather throughout the rest of this evening. Temps cooling though quite a bit, upper 60s to low 70s. The 6 o'clock hour feels good out there. Still hot in the lower 90s in Lamar with 50s and 60s up in the mountains. Nice really to see that cool off coming our way, especially for firefighters out along the western slope. We'll still stay in the 70s tomorrow afternoon, and then all eyes ahead toward the weekend, Labor Day weekend. We'll talk the forecast in just a few minutes. A little bit. Centennial, downtown Denver, kind of everyone in the metro, the south side starting to pick up a bit more rain just in time for maybe settling down for dinner or whatever. Yesterday was a completely different story. We picked up about an inch and a half of water out at DIA, taking our August totals to close to 3 inches of free water out there. Fantastic to see. Now our monthly average usually about an inch and a half or so, a couple more days and a couple more rounds of storms coming our way too. Upper 70s, low 80s this afternoon. Temperatures still running well below our average. We're in the 70s and 60s, 70s up in the mountains at about 81 in Grand Junction. Looking at the climate calendar, this is what I'm talking about. Our average, we really should be sitting in the mid 80s. Not the case today, and that is just fine with me. We're going to continue to see these below average temperatures as we head closer into Labor Day weekend. A line of stronger thunderstorm in Lyman. Otherwise, a little bit of light rainfall along I-76 heading out there towards Sterling, Julesburg. It's coming for you next. Flood advisory for parts of Weld County until about 6:30. They saw a whole lot of water earlier this afternoon. And then this is what I'm talking about. Downtown Denver south toward Littleton, Centennial, Highlands Ranch. Just a really nice, good drink of water. However, it is pouring around Ken Carroll and C470 tonight. As we look at this evening, I would say the next couple of hours we'll be watching out for a couple of lingering showers. Otherwise, by 10, 11 o'clock, most of the action moves out and numbers will fall into the upper 50s for us. Some spots in the 60s off to the eastern plains with 40s, low 50s mainly up through the mountains. Looking at the future cast about 7, 8 o'clock. Here we go. Those storms will be firing off to the east. Things quieting down by about 11 p.m. here in the metro. And you know, the past couple of mornings we've been waking up to those foggy conditions. Not the case tomorrow. It looks like a little bit more sunshine will be sneaking in here to the urban corridor. A few more lingering clouds out to the east. Otherwise, by the early afternoon, 1, 2 o'clock, we'll be watching the cloud cover filtering in, followed by another round of storms. I would say 4 or 5 o'clock, the Denver metro area could see a few stronger cells pushing out into Morgan. Clears out, so the storm's not nearly as widespread. Tomorrow, as what we've seen the past couple of days. In fact, look at this. Temperatures staying in the upper 70s. Those storms right there about 4 or 5 o'clock. So a little later when you're probably getting off work. Temps going to be cooling off around Lamar and La Junta in the mid to 80s. And we'll be in the 60s and 70s up in the mountains through the foothills. A little cooler 60s in Winter Park. So feeling good out there. And then the low 80s return Friday. Couple of scattered storms possible. That's the way we'll kick off the start of the holiday. Should be improving dramatically for us as we head closer toward the weekend. We still have a couple more days to go, however, and we still have another round of thunderstorms that'll be pushing back in. We have some severe thunderstorm warnings out there across the eastern plains right near Lyman right now in Flagler and I-70 15. This is not ideal for folks maybe getting a jump start on the Labor Day holiday, driving in, driving out on I-70 because it's been an absolute mess. Not only heavy rain, but quarter-size hail possible and a whole lot of lightning too. We'll zoom back in here to the Denver metro area. You can see on the south side of town, they're picking up some pretty heavy rain showers along with a bit of lightning, just light rain here in Denver and areas out toward DIA. Still, we'll be monitoring the potential for some ground stops out there. As we go throughout the rest of the evening, 11 p.m. or so, most of the storms will be fizzling out. We'll get a brief break overnight. In fact, a little bit more sunshine to wake up to on your Thursday. So some nice traveling conditions, maybe if you're getting a jump start early tomorrow. Storms tomorrow afternoon will be few and far between. We could have a few right here in the city about 4 or 5 o'clock. So factor that in if you have maybe a later evening flight, and then storms will continue to push off to the eastern plains later tomorrow evening. Again, looking at the hour-by-hour planner, you're pretty much going to be good to go until 4 or 5 o'clock here in Denver, and temperatures feeling pretty good as well. We'll be looking at highs in the upper 70s to low 80s for most of eastern Colorado. Really comfortable. Maybe you're just heading up to the high country for a quick escape. 60s and 70s out there and about 84 in Grand Junction. But again, the warmer, drier conditions, guys, sticking around at least through early next week. Labor Day does not look to have too many storms out there, so a bit of good news. That leads us into the month of September already, right? Cooler than average conditions likely for much of Colorado, and this continues to stretch across the Midwest, parts of the South, and then also in and around New England. Warmer than average conditions likely for much of the West Coast, and also those wetter than average conditions likely across much of the lower 48. Nice to see Colorado included in that, with kind of that bullseye sitting across Arizona as well as New Mexico and Texas, just because we have been watching those monsoon rains pour in from the Gulf, and that has allowed a whole lot of water to come through. Something we desperately needed to see.
Has this disposition to play in the rain.
Yes.
It's been fantastic with the puddles and the boots and
I loved
good
wearing a
stuff.
rain jacket. Yep,
That's
totally.
good. All right, thanks for watching. We are going to leave you, as we like to do, with a look at colorful Colorado.
Denver 7 photojournalist Lilia Onstadt takes us to South Valley Park in Jefferson County.